Typical of Adams, he can't leave that alone. It would have been an elegant moment in history. The real phrase is, by the way, I envy you that immortal honor, but I can't enter into competition with you, for my books are not half the number of yours. So already there's this moment in which, again, these two are struggling with each other. But he does ask, what on earth are you going to do without your library? Jefferson responds with now his very famous phrase, I cannot live without books. But fewer will suffice where amusement and not use is the only future object. And so it was that the choicest collection of books in the United States laid the foundation for the world's largest library. It's possible today to select nearly any type of material at the Library of Congress and somehow or another trace its roots back to a notion of Jefferson's sense of collecting. Jefferson, of course, is ever present in the institution he helped to launch, but in the specific content of the collections as well as in the sort of inclusiveness and utility that it creates. Although the Library of Congress is over 200 years old, the nation's rare book collection has only functioned as a division since 1944. And it has grown in a way that Jefferson would appreciate, I think. I'm only the sixth designated curator of rare books in the library's history. When my predecessors signed on, the rare book collection was comprised of 127,000 volumes. The collection currently stands at 850,000 volumes. So the world in which I live and the collection that I get to play with is vastly different than my predecessors would have ever imagined. You're looking at the entrance to the now exhibition on the Declaration of the Constitution and Bill of Rights, and also the entrance to Thomas Jefferson's book collection. This is now a permanent exhibition, but I hasten to remind you that this is the fourth most heavily used collection in the Rare Book and Special Collections Division. It is, after all, the bulk of our 18th century Americana holdings, and it is, in fact, a circulating collection for rare books. So while it looks like a static exhibition to the public, if you look closely, you'll see holes on the shelf, you'll see books that look a little bumped because we actually page from it twice a day on a daily basis. This leads to some great excitement for scholars who are coming to work with Jefferson. We also have the experiences just happened a couple of weeks ago in which somebody was doing research on sermons opposing theater. And they requested a book, and the page went to a page from the Jefferson exhibit, and as they laid it down, they said, could you please keep the green ribbon exposed? Why? Well, that reminds us that this is an actual Jefferson book, and the hands went up in the air. I don't want this. Why? Well, I don't want Jefferson's copy. I'm afraid it's the only copy in the Library of Congress. So Jefferson would be enormously thrilled by this moment, because these books are being used the way they're supposed to be. So although we give you the opportunity to stand in the universe of Thomas Jefferson, the real glory of that library is that a technician walks over, opens up the back of the case, removes a 17th century book in this case, and puts it on the table for anyone over the age of 18 with a reader card to use in a reading room. And that's why Jefferson's books are at the Library of Congress. Jefferson wrote to Abigail Adams in 1814 around the idea of letting go of his library, and said to her that reading is the greatest of all my amusements. One could argue that the passion for reading and the thirst for understanding prompted Jefferson to build the kind of library that he did. And as I mentioned, for 50 years this really served as his touchstone for a vision of an American nation and for a notion of thought. For centuries since, it has stood as the model of this nation's library. Reconstructing this landmark collection provides insights into the mind of Jefferson that I really wasn't expecting when we started, and certainly has exposed us to the world of his notion of a revolutionary idea. It was the wellspring to one of the nation's deepest thinkers, his collection, the drafter of the Declaration of Independence, the third president, a true visionary who helped mold our form of government. In the richly ornamented hall of a building named in Thomas Jefferson's honor, and amidst thousands of volumes, we can rediscover the dialogue that Jefferson actually carried on with his books, his ideas, his time, and the universe that surrounded him. Perhaps most important, it will revitalize the principle on which the Library of Congress was founded, that knowledge and free access to it, both by leaders and those that govern, are essential to democracy. Thanks very much.
speaker for a reception which follows immediately in the first floor Alderman Library Staff Lounge.